Hello, my name is Chris and welcome to our When Land Meets the Sea podcast, a coastal mini-series by David Jones Bold. On this podcast, Richard and Lizzie take a road trip around the coast of England and Wales and visit some of the most significant cases and legal issues relevant to the coast. UK coastal towns are some of the best places in the world to be, but they also face major challenges, faring disproportionately worse than inland towns and cities for health, education, socioeconomics, crime, and more. Through this group, we are working to change that. For example, we recently worked with the government to get coastal communities added to the list of mayor competencies under the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Act 2026. We've also developed a framework for coastal placemaking and stewardship, which you can download for free at www.djblaw.co.uk/blue-horizons. Enjoy the podcast.
Hello, Richard.
Hello, Lizzie. It seems like only yesterday since we last did something together.
Doesn't it just? And we're still on our journey round the English and Welsh coastline as part of our new coastal series, where we're looking at some of the cases that have happened around our coastal communities and some of the key issues around that are unique to coastal towns. And this time we are going over to East Sussex. That's where we're starting. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to travel down to Essex.
You can up to Essex, to be precise.
Oh yeah, sorry. Then we can travel up to Essex. You can obviously do the navigating, Richard, because clearly I don't know where I'm going. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be talking specifically about village greens and issues like, can beaches be a village green? So do you want to start with some background law around village greens?
Yeah, I better give you the background law. Basically, something can be registered with the relevant authority, the county or the unitary, whilst we've still got counties, if it's actually Section 15 of the 2006 Commons Act, where a significant, I'll paraphrase it, I'll quote it, it's where a significant number of the inhabitants of a locality or neighbourhood of the locality have indulged as of right in lawful sports and pastimes, and they continue to do so for at least, they do so for at least 20 years. And they can continue to do so until, the application is made, or they can stop doing so a year before the application can still be made. It's 2 years in Wales. There's also legislation. As of right means it's without force, secrecy, or permission. If you're forcing your way onto the land, it's not a village green. If you're secretly walking your dog on the land at dead of night, it's not a village green claim. And if you've got permission to be on the land, it can't be a village green as well. And there is some 19th century criminal legislation which still applies to this day, like Section 12 of the Enclosure Act of 1857, which, again, I'll sort of paraphrase it, says it's illegal to erect a fence on the village green, lay rubbish on the green, drive cattle across the green, or spread manure. So if you've been doing that, you must stop immediately. And also doing anything which prevents the locals using it as a place of exercise and recreation. And the other one, Section 29 of the Commons Act of 1876. It's a nuisance, it's a public nuisance to encroach on the village green or enclose it or erect anything on it or interfere with the soil. And I should say before we start, village greens don't have to be in villages and they don't have to be green. There are various. There was one where a quarry became a village green. In the Isle of Wight, there's a bandstand and public convenience underneath it that have become a village green. The mind boggles there. And it's various things can be. The South Bank subway is a village green based on the locals' skateboarding and the likes. The activities don't have to be what you and I. It's not just playing football and cricket and the likes. It's various other activities. There's actually some, I'm giving it a coastal slant, Llanpadrig in Wales, in Anglesey, Chemist Bay on the North Anglesey coast, where some rocks that people would play on became a village green, for instance. But anyway, you mentioned, can a beach be a village green? And that brings us on to the case of judicial review. Crown on the application of Newhaven Port and Properties Limited and East Sussex County Council, being the registering authority. It's a place called West Beach in Newhaven, surprisingly. And there'd been breakwater and put in by Newhaven docks in 1883, which caused this spit of land to develop, West Beach, and it's the only sandy beach on that part of the Sussex coast. And the locals for many a year had been sort of bathing on this beach and the likes. It's 15 acres of beach. On average, 42% would be underwater, it would be underwater 42% of the time. But there were some steps going down there, and the locals would just congregate on this sandy beach when it wasn't, I presume, underwater, and swim off it and so on. And they were doing this for many a year. There was a gap when the Second World War was on for obvious reasons. But in 2006, the then owners of Newhaven Port, who were a French public body, they blocked the way and put a fence up. And that's what caused the locals to make an application for a village green. It was the town council who actually made the application, claiming this is a village green. And they based their application, again, not on playing cricket and so on, but on this, we've been bathing on the beach. That's what gave rise to a series of cases all the way to the Supreme Court.
So what happened when it went to court? What was the outcome?
Well, there's some legislation the Newhaven Port has been around since the mid 1500s, and the first legislation on it was in 1731. But there was Newhaven Harbour Improvements Act, or the Newhaven Harbour and Ouse Navigation Act of 1847, which was then followed on by the Newhaven Harbour Improvements Act of 1878. And that incorporated other legislation which allowed bylaws and the likes to be passed in relation to this land. In 1931, bylaws had been passed that you couldn't do things like you shouldn't bathe on the land, you shouldn't be on the land if you're at this beach unless you were carrying out lawful business there. No dogs on the land, no sporting activities and games and so on the land. But the locals nevertheless made a claim for village green. It failed in the High Court. It succeeded in the Court of Appeal and then went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, in what wasn't the clearest of decisions, actually, basically said that you're there by right. And they said there's a statutory incompatibility, and you can't claim a village green if there's a statutory incompatibility. And the statutory incompatibility is the Newhaven Harbour Improvements Act says that you can't. They were. The owners of Newhaven ports were duty bound to actually improve the port and so on, and the port facilities, and they couldn't do that if it became a village green. And also, because of the bylaws, you had a right to be there. You were there by right. And therefore, the claim finally failed. They did, however, recognise that a beach could, maybe on limited circumstances, but a beach could be a village green. Subsequently, nothing to do again with the coast, but there was cases we've mentioned in the past, Lancashire County Council and the Secretary of State for Environment and NHS Property Services and Surrey County Council that said that statutory incompatibility means the land is held through statute, not just that you can't use the land, for that statutory purpose, but any land held by statute can't be a village green generally. And that's most central and local government land, quite a lot of the statutory undertakers, for instance. But that was the case. There can potentially be village greens. I know there's a few in Cornwall. We'll go along the coast to Cornwall now. And certainly on the north, what's it called? Dana Bay, is it? The driveway to it is a village green, and the place Upton Towers, which is near Hale now, where there's a village green. The dunes behind the beach, behind the foreshore of Village Green, and also a village green in Bexhill-on-Sea as well, actually, which is a beach in Sussex. And I know there was one, they'd made an application, I'm not sure what's happened with it, a Hoylake Beach. Do you know Hoylake, Lizzie?
I don't.
The Wirral.
The Wirral.
Mm-hmm.
Bit far from me.
Yep, but there you are. But so yes, a beach in limited circumstances can be a village green subject to things like statutory incompatibility. and you've not necessarily got any absolute right to access or carry out recreational work activities on the foreshore.
And so what about the case of TW Logistics and Essex County Council?
So we'll go from Cornwall back through Sussex, and we'll cross the Thames estuary, up the Essex coast, almost to Suffolk, to the port of Mistley, which has been around since about 1720. It's on the River Stour, to be precise, but it's tidal. It's about 10 miles down the river from Harwich and Felixstowe. Do you know that area at all?
No,
It's
not at all.
purportedly where Matthew Hopkins was born.
I see. Good.
The Witchfinder General.
Yeah, there's always a bit of history with a bit of geography and a bit of law all thrown in together.
All together. Want to make people they're a complete Renaissance people.
Yeah.
But yeah. And this port handles it. I'm not sure you'd say it's small ships. I think they get up to about 3,500 tons, but more sort of coastal ships than the Harwich and Felixstowe above all handle. But the locals used to congregate on a 200 square metre area of quayside, and basically TW Logistics were the owner of this private port, a place called Allen's Quay. And they would carry out various activities. But obviously, lorries and the likes are going to unload and load the boats and the likes. And in 2008, the health and safety executive told TW Logistics that they had to cordon off this land because it was dangerous having these lorries where the locals were congregating. And so they put a 1.8 metre of linked metal fence, cordoned it off, and the locals objected to this. One, Mr. Tucker in particular, objected to this, and they claimed it was a village green. Based on, again, not what you might think of as a village green, but their pastimes included chatting with one another, that's a lawful pastime, and sporting activity for some, and also feeding the swans, and also catching crabs. Shall I rephrase that one?
Are we going to get your crabs joke now?
No. What's the best way of explaining? Yeah.
Crab fishing.
Crab fishing, that's what I'm looking for. In 2014, the council registered the land as village green, and basically TW Logistics then argued that, if it gets registered as a village green, they wanted it deregistered because if it gets registered as a village green, then they will not be able to carry out their activities. It'll be criminal to continue carrying out their activities. They won't be able to get the lorries to load and unload the boats and the likes. And that went all the way to the Supreme Court in early 2021. The Supreme Court, I think it was one of the first podcasts we did, actually, Lizzie. And the Supreme Court basically said that there's nothing stopping you driving vehicles across Village Green, and you have to give and take. It's fair and reasonable for the two of you to exist together, the locals with their crab fishing, the commercial venture going ahead. So at Quayside became a village green on that particular occasion. So much, much more widespread than you may imagine.
Indeed.
And that's the second of our coastal series.
Thank you very much, Richard.
Thanks, Lizzie.